Hello and welcome back to Late Night Music Theory with your host, me. I know it's been a couple of days. I know we took a little break, but hold on now and stay with me, okay? Because we're getting ready to conclude this album. And with that conclusion comes diving in deeper and seeing a more completed storyline than what you've gotten previously, because what you've gotten previously was not the finishing of the album. Okay, are you paying attention? Exactly. All right, so it's gonna be me going into it deeper, better than before, with my tea, with our lyrics. We're gonna sit here, we're gonna connect, we're gonna go with some theories, and we're gonna keep it pushing. Okay, let me hear a yeah. Exactly. Let's roll the clip. Now, with us going deeper into a more darker area, if you will, we can attribute this to, an ocean. You start off on, surface level, it's nice and bright, and then you go through the different layers. Don't ask me the name of them layers. I am not a whoever it is that studies those ocean waters. Don't know. You go through the layers, and then sunlight is not reaching, and it gets darker and darker and darker, and then we kind of get into those murky things where we don't know what's going on down there. But what we know is that we know enough to keep going and let that be what it is. And sometimes when you let that be what it is, you get into moments like 7 a.m. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, you may not be seeing the connection as of right now, but trust and believe you will get it. Because along with those dark waters, being murky and you don't know what's going on down there, that's the same that's going on with this song. We start off with a murky feeling. Because, before tracks, we were talking about how it kind of feels like we're in a trance and we're going deeper and deeper in. And then we come out, and then sometimes we go back in, and then we're back out. But here, it's murky. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of murmurs happening, and it almost feels like, because of the fact that it is following Beetlejuice, that this is the chapter of the album where we're beginning to phase out of whatever it is that's happening. Before, like I said, we were reacting, we were talking about things, but here, we're sitting up here and we're just gonna take a seat. We're gonna take a back seat. And then soon we're gonna get out the car. But you've got to follow along for that journey. You can't just jump out the car like that. You can't give it to them dry like that. You get what I'm saying? So we're going to take it in. So one thing that I can appreciate, that I hope we all can, is whenever a song that's telling a story is then telling a story within that song, so you can identify with, or you can more easily visualize what it is that they're trying to tell you. Okay? And that takes the weight a little bit off of me with trying to paint that picture. So now we got a painted picture to the third degree. And what the vessel is the use of drugs, in being in and out of zones. Now, along with that vessel taking shape in drug use throughout the song, it is almost as if the partner is the substance and she is the user. And we're seeing as this relationship kind of gets askewed in moments where you start to see things that were never there. You start to believe truths that were never truths in the first place. And along with those mental effects, it is, if I could be more specific in it, it more so follows that trajectory of hallucinogenics and psychedelics. Because if we are attributing this type of relationship to the story that we've gotten so far, we have followed with themes of, not being able to see things for what it is, being in a cloudy situation. Things are all over the place. And while she's in a high, he is the perfect person. He's the perfect person for her because he is supplying her with this high. And as that's going on, it could go into the reward factor. Everything feels great. Everything's feeling nice. Everything's feeling chill. I'm really tapped in. I'm really relaxed. This feels like a truly Zen mode. But something like that isn't going to last. There's always going to be that moment where you're like, well, now wait a minute. Am I indulging too much? And then we got to be sober. So we start off with the song saying, woke me up at 7 in the morning, telling me the drugs have got you zoning. Seeing colors you're embracing every moment. Take the bait, he's begging me to join in. I don't know, maybe I'm tripping. Nothing like the drugs I do is different. Still, I ignore my intuition, praying that I'll be forgiven. Sound and color. Now we're going to stop it right there. Now, if we look into those lines and we look into that story, it's going along the lines of her not being somebody at the time taking drugs, and the partner is. And the partner is trying to get her to be a partaker along with him. Now, what's going along with that is seeing, feeling things that aren't there as we can go into the sound and colors. On top of that, it's her saying, nothing like the drugs I do, this is different. Now, of course, in this storyline, it could be whatever it is that was taken is different than before. But what I would like to say, to go a little bit deeper than that, is talking about how the relationship and this lasting effect that it's having on her is something different than what she has previously experienced before. Now, could that go back into my past notes where I was saying that, you know, with her being romantically involved, past relationships, they weren't as impactful as this, or it wasn't a good enough feeling, string of emotions, longevity wise, to provide as a positive model to show her these are the do's and don'ts in this relationship. And if you see this person engaging in this, you need to leave. She hasn't had that yet. All she has right now is her intuition, as she says. But her intuition, if you don't have a sense of what is correct, then you're just left to go, oh, well, that doesn't feel right. Instead of saying, that doesn't feel right, and also, this is what it's supposed to look like. You just have to go off of feelings. And all it takes is somebody to persuade you to go left when you were supposed to be going right. And that's in fact what he was doing to get her to partake. So along with this partake, like I said earlier, we're in a trance. This could be the start of it. This could be the start of the relationship, where it was coming from, where it stemmed from, and its effect and grasp onto her life, if you will. Because of the fact that once that started, everything's zoning. She's seeing things that are different, that aren't what it actually is in reality. Things seem nice. That's where those rose-tinted glasses started forming. And it was taking up space in her life that she didn't need, because she didn't need him, because he was willing to keep her there while he went out and did all this crazy type of stuff, and then come back to her and be like, hey, I'm sorry. Let's move on. Let's stay together. And she's had enough at this point in time to say, Now, what I would add to those moments of being high and everything seeming perfect, I think those sobering moments that led to her fading out would be those times of conflict or argument, or in those moments where he would try to come back to her and apologize, stating, I did all these things, let's acknowledge it, let's move on. These could be those sobering moments. Before she's taking him back, before all this is happening, she is with it. She is ready to put things down. In fact, in her own tracks, she stated how she would put herself on the back burner and she would be focusing on him. Now, during these times of sobering up and realizing, hey, this may not be worth it, and there's other things that I could be doing right now. As those arguments and conflicts increase, I believe that those sobering moments are lasting a bit longer every time. Where maybe the first time it happened, it was just, oh, he did this, okay, well, let's keep it going. And then over time, it goes, well, he did this, and I don't like how he thought he could get away with this. And, thinking about it, how he said what he said, I don't like that. I don't like how he thought he could just do all these things. Each time, those mindset, it's sitting. It's sitting longer. It's simmering. It's cooking. And at some point, that food's going to be done. And with that food being done, she's going to be done too. And maybe she'll throw a pot of grits in his face. Everything in life has a purpose. Everything in life is going to teach you something about yourself that you didn't know, or, gives you something new to know. However, whenever something is no longer worth it to get to that reward, get to that result, that's when you start to lessen on it. You start to put distance between yourself and whatever that is because it's no longer worth it. And in this case, I believe that during those times of questioning, as it got longer and longer in duration, him, the partner that is representative of the high, is no longer worth her taking it in having those the same effects that it was. Because for one, now that she's a changed person, okay, what she once found pleasurable is no longer bringing that satisfaction. And two, now that she's been through something like this with this relationship and knowing that, it's not the best, it's in fact not good, just like the rest of them, you can't look at that the same way that you looked at it when you were just starting. Because now you know what's going on. Now you know, okay, I can't look at you for comfort the same way that I used to because I know you cheated on me. I can't look at you for being a peace of mind when I know everything you've done is disrupt that. I can't do it. And because I can't do it, I'm going to keep on leaving. Along with leaving, I believe something was done. I don't think it was revenge. It could be revenge. Maybe something was done. And I say that because right before the main line of Sound and Color, she's stating that she prays that she'll be forgiven. What is there to be forgiven? Maybe she's forgiving herself. Maybe she's praying to herself about either the things that she put up with that was disrespectful to her from him, but also she disrespected herself by not following up with those boundaries. Because, it comes in those moments every now and then where, okay, something's done to you and that was disrespectful. You wouldn't put up with it. And so you call them out. But then there's also moments where maybe something is disrespectful, but it's teetering on that line of should you say something, should you act on it? And then when you look back on it, you say, yeah, I should have punched him in the mouth. What comes with that is saying, okay, in this moment, I didn't really follow up with my own personal boundaries and my own morals. And because of that, I disrespected myself by not living up to the idea that I would like to cast myself in. And that's real. That's real, and that happens to everybody at some point in time. You're going to disappoint yourself. And maybe this relationship in of its own was disappointing to her, and because of that she is trying to call out to herself, maybe her ideal self, maybe someplace above, and saying, hey, I'm leaving, but I am disappointed in myself, so what I'm going to do is work on forgiving that part of myself. I can move on. Now, what it could also be, if we go a little bit deeper into uncharted territories, is a potential callback to In My Nightmares. When she says, do you hear my prayers? I see him in my nightmares. Now, even though we have gone into it, I would say extensively, about what that could mean as far as that one song goes, with it happening again in this song, is that a callback? Is that a callback to what's happening, where it's just in that moment we're under the spell, where we've been casted and we've just been strung along with what's going on and whatever it is that he's trying to pull one over on us? And in those moments of her saying, praying that I'll be forgetting, or praying that I'll be forgiven, in the earlier song she's saying, do you hear my prayers? Not only in that moment, but later on in the album. But even though it's later on in the album, I feel as though these are encapsulating moments that are within that time period of the relationship actively developing on, where we get those moments of inconsistencies. And as those inconsistencies grow, her awareness of it grows. Now, as we get into the outro, because what's a constant theme throughout this album? The songs are short, but they say a lot. She goes on to say, all the lovers in this universe, and I still chose to put you first. Said I loved you and I meant it, but you can't comprehend it anyway. Not alone, but yes, I'm lonely, and the drugs have got me zoning these days. What I find fascinating about that outro is everything is in past tense. Her language that she is putting this in, past tense. Whereas before, it's present. You're embracing, you're begging me to join in. But now, after everything's said and done, sobering moments, we're now speaking in the past. New word along into my definitions of words that I make up. I made up this word as I was taking notes on it. I call it track act. Hold up. Let's take from the top. What I find fascinating about that outro is the language being in past tense. Because if we compare it to the beginning of the song, that was present. Everything was happening in that moment. But now that we're in those sobering moments and looking back on what we thought was a high, no, it wasn't worth it. And I did too much. And I got too little in reward. And what I'm going on with that, I wrote this in my notes, okay? You gotta stay with me, because sometimes I like to come up with words. I wonder if anybody else does that. You know, you come up with words, you give it its own definition and things like that. I call it trajectory. Combination, firstly, you better. That word is good, okay? Combination of track and, trajectory. And how I use that word is following the events of the track listing along with the trajectory of the story time. And if the track is aligned with how the story is progressing, you get a trajectory. Trajectory. Now, along with it being past tense, it does come with a question of what's going on with this song. And I took it as, would it be wrong to say that both parties are treating this relationship as a novelty? Stick with me for a minute. The partner themselves, as we've said time and time again, they took her, put her on a shelf, said, oh, this is pretty to look at. And then they went on with their lives and did whatever they did. And then they just came back every now and then to, look, show a little bit of affection and keep it pushing. I say that that's novelty in the way that it literally is within being an antique. Something to play, something to look at, be a shiny object. All right? But then for Mariah's case, she is genuinely wanting a novelty relationship, something that is worth having passion for, wanting to build that connection with this person. She wants this, and building this connection is taking away that passion. Because all passion is not knowing the person that you're involved with. Everything seems new, everything seems fresh. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that about you. This is so thrilling. Let's do this. Oh my goodness, I didn't know we connected on this level. That's passion. And so, on the flip side of what passion is, as you get to know somebody, the passion goes down. And as that passion goes down, the important part and factor of the relationship is that when that passion is gone, there needs to be something of substance that is holding us down. And once she got rid of all that fun, that thrill of, ooh, who is this? Oh, I want to know more about this person. They're so interesting. Once that was gone, what is there to hold us down? Nothing. Okay? Now, going along with that thought process, of course there's nothing. There was cheating. There was affairs. But going along with how the album was served to us, if we take it a step back and go to Hotel, where we were discussing that it could possibly be named that, since there is no foundation, she's trying to make everything seem cozy and warm and sustainable. Something you can return back to, but she can't give you what's not there. Once passion is gone, what is there? There's nothing. So that is the wake-up call that she is seeing time and time again, that is finally coming back to her in this instance where she's like, well, wait a minute. This high ain't worth it. I'd rather just be sober by myself, try and figure out what it is that I need, what it is that I was seeking out, and try and seek that within myself, because she's praying that she'll be forgiven. She disappointed herself, and to fix that is to do some self-work. But to do that self-work in this case, she had to let him go. To it I laughed. Now, bonus fun fact, you may not care to know it, but I'm going to tell you because, what? Thank you. The song starts at the 13th second mark, and what I find funny about that is I don't think it was planned. I think that's just the way the world works. It starts off at the 13th second mark, and her singing stops at 3 minutes and 13 seconds. I think that's a fun coinky dink. I don't think there's any substance, anything worth looking into that. I just think that's fun. That's nice to know. And now you know that too. But with us leaving that and going out of this distant, crossed feeling, it brings us to disclosure. What are you going to say now that you've killed me? Here lies the body, broken and bruised countless times. But here I am asking you to confess it all to me. And that's where we are right now with disclosure. We're fading out, but just admit it. Admit what you did to mess this up. Admit your insecurities, your inconsistencies, not only to me to help me move on, because right now I am begging you to shed light into this. One, why are we doing that? If we're really serious about moving on, we would just move on and do the self work for ourselves. But, neither here nor there. But I am begging you to not only admit to me these things to help me, but also to help you so you can take some perspective or identify there's things within you that, hey, that wasn't the best thing to do. Here's how I should do this better, or I should be mindful of these things. But from our perspective of the album, you weren't even willing to do that. You weren't even willing to, and we're not saying be accountable, but that's something that you should be. We're simply saying, could you identify these moments that you feel as though was wrong? And then on top of what you feel is wrong, me have a conversation with you and say, okay, but what about B, C, D, and E? That was also wrong too. Don't just talk about A. Why are we begging to help somebody that broke us? If we're really serious about this and moving on, we do that self work and we're going to keep it pushing. But the breakdown of heartbreak affects us all in different ways and we do things differently. Everybody's mental isn't the same. And you've got to be there and be understanding for people as long as they move on in a helpful way, healthy way, and they elevate. That's all we can hope for. Throughout the song, as we're going into those themes of, just confess it all to me, and you may be sitting there and just like, you also have to say, well, that's not me. In that case, that's not me. But what I do hope for is better for her. I hope that she makes it out of this and she becomes a bigger and better person than before. But right now, we've got to follow her in her headspace right now, because this is her headspace. And we've just got to be in the car, on the road, as it's happening. And eventually we won't. But right now, that's where we are. And I take residence as the passenger princess. I don't make the rules. Now, this song has a feature, and it is by a man. So, we gotta take it. We gotta take it with a grain of salt. And we got to keep it pushing. If there is a song, I think I have some songs in my head that I can give you an example for, but it's not coming to me right now. But if you know of a song where it's woman led and there's a man feature and the man adds to the story and he doesn't throw it off by talking about off topic things, but he genuinely adds to the story, or makes the song better, let me know. Recommend me some songs. Because it's very rare. I would say there is a 7 out of 10 chance that I listen to a song with a woman with a man feature and it just throws off the entirety of the song. It's just like, now wait a minute. How did we get here? Why are we talking about this? This is a whole different, you bringing a whole different energy. That's like when Ari Lennox oh, open for Rod Wave. Like, wait a minute. Now, my girl is out here talking about up late again. You know what I'm saying? And then you in that crowd full of people that's like, boy, gun, drug, boy.
Boy, shit, boy, stuff, drugs, guns, bitches, money, yeah, boy, shit, boy, shit, man, nigga, what, yeah, guns, pow, that's on it, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And then a bottle was thrown at her. Now, I would have pulled a Rico and said, everybody point out who that was. Who is it? Is you? All right, hold on, wait. Let me get off the stage and let me show you what this is really about. But I digress. Give me them recommendations. So so with his feature, it does add to the story. You know, it does add to the story. Not in the smoothest way, but it does, by not only him being the man in the relationship of this track, but it could also act in impersonating the actual partner, because his feature is clarifying what was done. Yeah, I was out, I was having this affair. I was thinking about this other woman when you asked me and I lied to your face. But it was going on, you know how they get down. They lie to your face and then they'll turn around and say, but that person can never be you. I cheated, but I was always thinking about you. I was doing these things with these other people, but you never left my mind. And that just is telling me that, we're really meant for each other. The love we have is real. So take me back. I'd mace you in your eyes 1 inch apart. You know what? I mace you in your eyes just like 1 centimeter away from your eyeball. And I do it with the biggest smile on my face. That is what his feature is working to do. However, we don't actually know whether or not that is the partner's sentiments, that's the partner's statements. So what we're going off of this with is, if he is impersonating this partner, the most he can touch on is whatever it is that she is speculating that was the downfall to the relationship. We are essentially going off of what it is that she wants to hear, whether or not that's a potential detail or if it actually happened. As of right now, whatever he's saying, alluding to, is speculation within the inconsistencies. Now, along with that theme of confessing, it has the main line of just confess it all to me. And what I noted out of that is there are undertones. There are undertones throughout the whole album if you really are listening, but you got to be listening to it. Where there are religious details in it all. Right now we're going 4 for 4. We just had the last track, 7 a.m. But we've also had In My Nightmares, Beetlejuice, and this song. What is interesting about where those details are placed within the song and what those details specifically are talking about, that is a sense of interest in, well, what are you trying to do with this? I don't think it was purposeful, but I did point it out, and here we are with theories and observations. In my nightmare, of course, we're going to take it back to that line of, do you hear my prayers? And then in Beetlejuice, we have a few lines where it's going in, and then you'll say, even Jesus forgave. Put on that Godspeed like you a godsend. Take me to the peak of your mountain and tell me to drink from your fountain. You get what I'm saying? We got 3. And then in 7 a.m., praying that I'll be forgiven. Okay. This could be praying to herself. This could also be praying to an upper being. Who knows? We don't. And then in this song, just confess it all to me. Now, along with that trajectory, in the beginning with In My Nightmares, that can be the intro to these religious details with, calling on to somebody before you are actually met with your maker. Essentially. Now, would we compare that to a man? No. But following this album, we kind of get that attention that she was willing to give to this man in this relationship, or how her mentality around how male-centered, really male-centered, that this relationship has shown us through what she expresses in the music. And in Beetlejuice, with those lines that I mentioned, it could be similar to The Wiz. Now, if you know The Wiz, I feel like you can see the vision. But if you don't know, okay, let's see this vision, right? We start off the story by saying, oh, you have to do this, this, and this, and this, and this to get to your dreams, to get to your goals, hopes, and ambitions. You have to do all these different things. And by doing all these different things and tasks to do to finally get this one item to bring to this higher being that shows a proof to your devotion, so they can grant you those wishes, hopes, and desires that you started off with. As you're doing all these different tasks that are more grueling and more demanding than the last, and you finally get to that moment of saying, hey, we did all these things. Could you grant me these wishes? Could you do this for me? I've proven myself to you. And then when push comes to shove, and you see that person for what they are, and you're like, now wait a minute. I was doing X, Y, and Z thinking that I was going to be met with some grand person, some grand entity that I couldn't even fathom within myself, that's going to grant me a wish that nobody can do but them. And then you get to that moment and you say, you ain't nobody. This is a scam. I did all this for what? For you to let me down? And within Beetlejuice, guess what was happening? She was being let down. 7 a.m., we're waking up, we're realizing, okay, these are the things that we did. We did X, Y, and Z to get to this point. Okay, now, we're out of it. I can't believe I did X, Y, and Z, but I did it. So, maybe I need to forgive myself. And within forgiving myself, I have to call out the things that I was willing to do. I have to confess it all. I have to stand firm, not only in what I used to do, but what I'm willing to do to move on, self-correcting, if you will, doing that self and inner work that we were talking about earlier. Trajectory. Outside of the ideas and theories that we can come up with past points of the song and what the album is giving us within her headspace, we get a line within Disclosure that acts as a timestamp within the relationship as it's happening. And one of the lines is her saying, seeing you in the party, never would have thought it would be the last time. Past tense. But of course, this was actually happening. And along with the sense of the song being confessionals and it being, the last build up before she's gone, she's out, along with those experiences being a wake up call, this can quite actually be the tangible moment that serves as a wake up call. Whereas before it was just, these are the red flags, let me sit with myself and think about it. Oh, I should have left. In fact, let me leave right now. This is a physical time where it was like, oh, at 8:25, December the 2nd, I went with my girls to the club and I saw my ex over there kicking it with some other person, and they look really bad. They look like they've developed for the worse. And that's when I figured that would be the last time I see you. If that person is developing for the worse, or in that moment you saw that they weren't also willing to do that self-work to make them better, as we've gotten within the song, with them not wanting to address their contribution to the downfall of this relationship, yeah, this is gonna be the last time that we see each other. Or at least this is gonna be the last time that I see you. Oh, I don't need you. I don't breathe you. Okay, this ain't a Coco Jones moment. I do not need to be in the ICU for you. I'm gonna be gone. And like Sierra said, I'm out. Right before the song phases out, we get two gongs. Not from a gong, maybe, but I tried looking up the word. I can't really think of it, but think of a clock tower and its chimes going off 2 times. Looking into that further and seeing how that's used thematically and within literature, you get into those descriptions of it, meaning it's foreshadowing, ominous. There's dark tones that's happening throughout all that. And that could play into it. That could play into, the downfall of the relationship. Ominous coming into it. But what I would much rather go with is it being used to represent a time shift or a shift in mentality that divides what's been going on in this album to the final track. And the final track is not a love song. Now, just like this analysis, this song comes out swinging, and we start off saying, "You were never good at it. Showing affection, I attribute it to your lack of effort. I never confessed it, but I'm prone to depression. 'Cause you were never good at it. Showing discretion with the girls out on the road that you were texting. I never connected the signs till the gold's in the dresser. Proof that you were never good to me." All these things are coming together. The stars are aligning. And along with it aligning, it comes out within the production of the song itself. It feels as though it's a slow song. And what I'll add on top of that production level is the fact that Not a Love Song is my favorite track of this album. Everything about it just scratches something in my brain, and it's just like, the love is there. It's in the song. We're going to play a game in the future where you see if you can guess my favorite track of the album. Or, with the videos out currently, if you can tell me a little bit about myself based off of all of my favorite tracks of the albums that we've presented so far, albums and EPs that we've had. And there's three. So you follow along with that 3 episode rule where, if you only had two, you can make judgment, but it's not as sound because you only have two options. But you have three now. So you should have enough. Tell me a little bit about me. But the production of this song is a slow dance. It's very reminiscent of a slow dance. It feels as though we are in a prom, in a gala, some sort of event where it is everybody is dressed up to the nines and you asked me for this dance. Isn't that funny? Every jazz band holding hands. Could I have this dance? It reminds me of a bad man. Along with the fact that with this verse that we just mentioned, we're talking about all the inconsistencies that we've talked about before, but because everything's aligning within disclosure, it's now coming true and true. No longer worried about this. I'm seeing you now. Like we said before, the glasses are off. This is the chapter of the glasses coming off. And if my glasses came off, I would be blind. I mean, not really. I mean, let's see. Like I could see, I can make this out kind of a bit, a little bit. But let's prefer to have the glasses on, you know, and let's see it for what it truly is. And what it truly is garbage. As this is going along with what we've said previously within 7 a.m. of her being on this high inflicted by him, and it's now gone, and she's sobering up and she's sitting in it, I noticed that it's a reflection of all the things that happened before that, like we were saying, she should have picked up on, but we're getting more into where she should have ran to emotional safety. And it kind of feels like we're watching back a film, as if the moments of the relationship was recorded from day one to whatever day it was where the relationship was ending. And she's sitting back in the audience and watching this film and saying, wow, she really did this. Oh my goodness. She should have hid. Why didn't she run? Girl, run. Get up. Almost like we're watching a horror movie. Girl, why are you tripping and still on the floor? Get up and run. Pick up that knife. Why did you run upstairs? Go to the backyard. Call the cops. But get help. Get somebody that can help you. But another reason why I chose a horror film out of all the things, because I'm thinking of those classic horror films. They're a little bit old, but they set up the theme and they do what needs to be done because they are the originals of it. And what comes along with that is that grainy old texture, if you will, when you watch those films. Because as you're listening to that song within the production, it feels as though the recording is grainy. You're picking up on all those skips and disruptions as the trajectory of the recording is going along, taking us back to reminders where the track skipping are those moments where you're being taken out of the situation and saying, hey, this doesn't look right. But instead of it being put back in and just trying to fix it and keep going, no. Now, a great visual, because I've already given you a little bit of everything in order to go along with this painted picture. Okay, everybody close your eyes. Your eyes closed? Okay, close your eyes. So, I want you to imagine you're slow dancing with whoever it is. It'd be whoever they are to you. But you're slow dancing with them. Actually, if that helps, keep that. But if not, imagine Mariah slow dancing with her partner at the time. This is now her current self reflecting back on the relationship. This is her slow dancing with her partner, right? And she is no longer in it so she can take in the room. She's no longer transfixed on this man and thinking that he is everything to her. She can now take a step back and look at what is going on in this room. What can this room tell me about my future in all of this, right? And so, as she's looking around in the room and she's noticing people that she didn't notice before because she was transfixed, she was in a trance, she's noticing that all of these people dancing around her are remnants of the relationship that happened before, that was telling her all those moments when she should have ran. Oh, this version of her is crying because there was cheating. This version of her is upset because she felt disrespected or things like that. She's seeing those remnants of inconsistency within the other people slow dancing around her and realizing this is not a safe place. This is not a place where I belong and I have to leave. But she is stuck in a loop because even though this is her current self reflecting on the relationship, she is, in fact, embodying that present version of herself that is having to put up with it. She is watching herself have to go through these things to become the person that she is when looking back on the tape. But as we go on into those songs, those observations become reinforced whenever she goes into the lines of saying, it's nothing wrong, I just noticed that we got different motives. Now, would it be fair to say that that was the predetermined sign that this was never going to work out? This was never going to be something that was successful because their motivations were completely different. That is going into a unity with somebody who not only doesn't see or have the same end goal as you, but their perception of it is completely different to the point where they couldn't even fathom your perception of the end goal that you want for us. That's a blow to the heart right there. Imagine that you are in a relationship with somebody who, at that time, you feel as though, oh my goodness, we're meant for each other. We are so in love. I'm willing to put up with this. You're willing to do that. We come back together. We're like this. Like we are together. And then as things come on, you're like, wait a minute. We have two completely different ideas and perceptions of this relationship. That's already eliminating our foundation. We can't have two different variations of a foundation and still expect to build a home. Where you see that at? As the song goes along, we start to get her internal feelings behind the reasons why this was never going to work out, on top of the fact that we had completely different motivations. And she says that within I learned my lesson, cutting out my passive aggressive ways. I know the record states that we should go about our separate ways because we don't deserve a love song, maybe a poem about all the ways that we go wrong, put on a slow song and slow dance in a snowstorm. But you were never good at romance. We never hold hands. You prefer the girls that be pole dancing. It's nothing wrong. I just noticed that we got different motives and that you were never good at this. No need to reconcile our differences because we were never good at it anyways. So on top of the motivations being askew between both of them, they're so far apart that they're having trouble even coming back together. So, on top of the motivation for starting the relationship, there's also a lack in motivation in coming together to move on. But along with this song feeling sad, be made to feel in that way as if they were never capable of deserving something as a love song or anything that can truly embody the love that they have without just saying, you know what? We don't we actually don't deserve this. What we deserve is a poem. We aren't even deserving of something that is in full length of love because it was never that consistent or long enough in duration for me to feel to every facet of my being. As much as that song is giving that sense to us, it also feels freeing because we are now looking in the perspective of not just her in the present singing the song, but what this song could mean for future presence. To know that, okay, this relationship ended, okay? I've already talked about my reactions to it. I've already talked about what you did wrong, how you got me messed up, but also how I messed myself up. So let's just talk about the things that we swept under the rug and let's get it out the way. And the fact that this is the final track and it's saying it in that way, it feels freeing. Could you imagine that? You've gotten all your griefs out of the way, you've got all your misconceptions and things like that. And now it's time for you to close that chapter. We are on our way to moving out because we started off at 7 a.m. with a fade out. Disclosure ends with two gongs, and I believe it's symbolizing a time shift. This is the shift of her exiting. And man, does that exit feel good. And as we end on that free note release, we have now come to the end of this episode of Late Night Music Theory with your host. Now, an important thing is we will be taking a slight break. Trust and believe this is not ceasing. We're still going to keep going. But there will be a little break as we go into the next chapter, series, theme. I don't know. But it's going to be a different vibe, if you will, of what it is that we'll be discussing as far as the albums and the EPs. If you can catch this collection's theme, props to you. Actually, I think that's what it will be named. Different collections. Will be coming back in a bit for collection number 2. I don't know. We'll have to workshop that name. But either way, we're going to take a little break. And then we're going to get back. We're going to be better than ever before. And then we're going to keep doing that to get back and better than ever. But with that being said, this concludes our breakdown analysis of Mariah the Scientist's debut album, Master. Let me know, of course, if you are rocking with some of these theories, if you have theories and observations of your own that could be added or contrasted, or just general thoughts on the album and how you felt about everything. Be sure to let me know. I do indeed want to get into your thoughts in the comments. And I can't wait to see y'all again. I know, like I said, I was off a week. I know. I missed y'all. I did. Life hit me, but now we back. And here to make things bigger and better. So definitely like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all later. And I'll see y'all again to go what? Deeper and more extensive into late night music theory. Bye, y'all.